Okay. Now, we talked about being privileged and pleased. We have someone, and I know there was somebody else here, this lady said that she worked at the fair, but we have another first person account for you of someone who not only worked at the fair, but had a very unique experience while she was doing that. So I'm going to bring out Lynne Smith, and this is Lynne, and turn the microphone over to her. I think I'll describe what she's wearing first, and then she can talk. This is a...
Pretty classy.
Yeah, of course. This is a cream gabardine swing coat, which many of you probably wore that style in the day, which we love. 3/4 length sleeves with a cuff and trim. We chose some peep-toe shoes to go with that, and her hat, again, is from Frederick & Nelson's, that venerable department store that for many of us, we were sorry to see close in '92, but we have some of the Frederick & Nelson's accessories and clothing in our collection. So now I'm going to let Lynne do some talking. I'll give my voice a rest.
Hi, how are you? Can everybody hear me? You may not know me by sight, but if you lived in Seattle in 1961 and 1962, we may have spoken to each other. If so, you called me. Back in those days, you would have had to put your index finger into that little hole and move the circle around, and I would have answered, not magic, but my name is Lynne, and I would have said, operator. Today we are celebrating the 50th anniversary of the World's Fair. It seems like yesterday. And this is something that I think my aunt or my mother would have worn if they had gone to the fair. It was a groovy back then, and I had a good time working at Ma Bell as a long-distance operator. In 1962, a call went out across the state of Washington for young women interested in a special assignment. 30 to 35 were picked to act as Bell Hostesses at the World's Fair out of over 600 applicants. I was picked, I got lucky. We started training about 2 or 3 months before the fair, learning to walk, to sit, to speak, and to memorize pages and pages of script to demonstrate the futuristic equipment that the Bell Laboratories were currently developing, and some I think that they just made up. I can't remember everything, so that's why I'm reading it. I remember one day that we had to talk with the engineers at the Bell Labs. We didn't understand how some of the devices worked. We talked to the techies of that day, and they explained the use of laser and pulse code modulation. Any of you remember that when you went to the fair, if you went to the Bell exhibit? I had to look it up. Once the fairs started, we settled into our routine. We were free to think of other things. Pardon me. One day a friend called me to say there was going to be a movie made using the fair as a background, and we thought it would be fun to see if we could get on as an extra. We lucked out and became part of a crowd scene, walking back and forth for 4 or 5 times. Much later, we found out that our efforts ended up on the cutting room floor. We really didn't care. We had fun. And what was more fun for me was getting a W-2 form from MGM. I always have proof that I was in the movies. I have to say that I cannot remember the scripts to explain Ma Bell's exhibit to the fairgoers, but there was something else that I will never ever forget and I will always remember. The best one also began with a phone call. A friend asking me to a party. While we were playing extras on the movie, she had become dating this tall, husky gentleman who turned out to be a bodyguard of one of the headliners of the movie. A few days later, I arrived at a suite on the 6th floor of one of Seattle's best hotels. Excuse me again.
Yeah, Lynn's been sick, but she came today because she's better. Do you want water?
Sorry about that, I'm determined to finish this. To Seattle's best hotels and entered a room packed with people, talking, laughing, music, dancing, and Coca-Cola. The room was furnished in a Danish modern furniture. Do you remember what that looked like? Yeah. I say this because the chair that I sat in was very, very low. As I was looking around the room, I noticed that there was a man standing next to me. And from my low-seated point, hold on, change. I saw first black shoes, and then looking up, I saw black slacks and a black long-sleeve shirt. And then I saw the black hair. And then the face that is still world famous today. It was the king of rock and roll. It was Elvis Presley. So what do you say when you see Elvis Presley? Yeah, exactly. I was trying to be cool. So I said, hi, how's it going? And he said, I'm fine. I do not know where it came from, but I heard something about his grandmother, and so I asked after his grandmother. I must have read, as I say, or heard something, and he, with that, squatted down next to me, right next to the chair. And he began to talk about her and tell me in a very soft, low, slightly drawl voice about her for about 5 to 10 minutes. To this day, I can't remember the details, but I really don't care. I had a chance to have a talk with Elvis, just he and I, one-to-one, all alone in that big noisy room, as if we were very old friends. For me, not much can beat that 10 minutes. As for Ma Bell, most of the things we demonstrated have come and gone. Even Ma Bell's gone. Now we have things like Skype and Verizon and Magic Jack. The equipment has changed and the phones are not the same. And a lot of the things that we have now were not even demonstrated at the fair back then. The fair is over, and it is part of Seattle's history, and I have some great memories. I had fun working at the fair. I hope you enjoyed hearing about it. Thank you all so very much.
Well, we thought you would really enjoy that first. How many of you are Elvis friends? Or fans, I should say. Yeah, lots of Elvis. This fair, this World's Fair, was one of the first to make money. They kept numbers on everything, including there are almost 10 million people that have went to the fair, but every time they reached another million, they would do something. Again, this is a picture, really quick. You can just see that this woman is ecstatic. because she is